Buzzell really weighed in.
You got it?
On the lake loop. The sheds every year get thinner and thinner and thinner. Is it just toward the one down over right there at Baskerville?
Really, you don't just push a button on the same work.
Are we good?
200 block?
Even though there's not lights going around? That's all right, I just want to make sure we're ready to go. Will, are you sure we're ready? Okay.
Tucked away. Like a dead end road, you know.
Testing.
Like much nicer.
Testing. Are we good? I get a thumbs up from Jackson, is that right? Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Will.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the City of Monona Plan Commission, Monday, March 13th, 6 p.m. Please call the roll.
Chair Moore,
Here?
Alder Holmquist,
Here.
Mr. Homburg,
Here.
Mr. Grice, here, Mr. Conrad,
Here.
Ms. Fox,
Here.
Ms. Fallett, and Mr. Steiner excused.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 27th, 2023?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Any other discussion? Chris?
PJ, last paragraph, last word should be struck and put down contamination. So as he pointed out that the clay liner might not be needed if there's no contamination.
Got it.
And the reason I pointed that out is because they said they can't do it because of contamination, and when we asked them about the DNR, I said, oh no, we've got it all clear, there is no contamination. Do you remember? So
Yes.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
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 The minutes are approved. No changes to the order of business. Is there anyone here to make an appearance this evening that is not on the agenda for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the appearance section and go to number 6A, unfinished business, public hearing by Michael Philosophy. Okay, thank you. Represented by Vern Cott Surveying on request for consideration of a certified survey map CSM to consolidate 2 lots for the purpose of constructing an addition to a single-family residence at 4506 Shore Acres Road, case number 2-004-2023. So you are up to discuss, and we would like you to come to the microphones in the front of the room to do that.
Should I go with them up on the road?
If you're going to say anything, yes. And thank you. And I would double check to make sure that your microphones are on. They might not be. If there's, I believe underneath, if there should be a switch to turn them on. If Here comes Jackson. He's going to fix it for you.
Hello?
Do you want to start us off, Danny? I don't know what the...
Thank you, Jackson. Okay. Now, go ahead. The floor is yours to let us know whatever you'd like to know, like us to know about your application.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is Danny Scott, my contractor. I guess basically the request here is the property that I purchased last year, we're looking to take what are two distinct lots and combine them into a single so that the additional lot, which is the part where we hope to do an addition, but currently wouldn't otherwise fit the minimum lot requirements, then is absorbed into the other lot and then would be exempt from that requirement. Am I stating that correctly? Is that the gist of it? All right.
So just having it where he currently owns 2 lots, and he's wanting to have it to where we can combine it in order to accommodate the addition and apply with all setback requirements.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, we will, unless there's anybody else here to speak on behalf of this application, we'll close the public hearing. Anybody on Zoom here to speak on behalf of this application? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll move to item number 6B, consideration of action by Michael
Kolosik.
Polasic, thank you, represented by Baron Cut Surveying on the request of consideration and a certified survey map CSM to consolidate 2 lots for the purpose of constructing an addition to the single-family residence at 6506 Shore Acres Road, case number 2-004-2023. Doug?
Thank you. So the request here is for to combine 2 lots into one over at 4506 Shore Acres Road. This would allow the applicant to build a ground floor addition to the existing single-family home within the required setbacks. This did have a pre-hearing with the Planning Commission and also went to the Public Works Committee as required, where it received a unanimous recommendation on March 1st, and formal consideration by the City Council would follow any recommendation here by the Planning Commission. The lots are lots 1 and 2 of Block 6 of the Springhaven Plat and have not previously been subdivided. One of the things I did want to point out that was discussed last time was the street width. It was confirmed that City Ordinance does require the resulting lots to front on a dedicated street, at least 60 feet in width, and there are some discrepancies there in terms of the road width, but the right-of-way is still 60 feet. Previously, the Commission has been comfortable, if those conditions are existing, for that requirement to be sort of included and that not to be an issue. In terms of the lot size, the proposed lot would meet all single-family dimensional standards, and this would allow the property to have the addition without the need for any variance or crossing the lot line. This was also reviewed by the city's consulting engineer, Via Becker, and that review is included, and that is included as part of the recommended conditions that those items be addressed. There were no comments from city staff, and the recommendation to council for approval with the 2 conditions as listed in the staff report. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Brian, would you like to start on this one?
I have no issues.
Okay. Thank you.
No issue.
No issue.
I'm good.
Susan? No issues. Okay. Chris?
No issues. I'd just like to say I think Beer Vicker did a nice job in the review.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. That being the case, do I have a motion? Brian, would you like to make a motion?
I'll move approval with the recommendations cited by staff.
Okay. Do I have a second? I have a second from Brendan. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Move on to number 7A, public hearing on the request by Venona Retail Management, LLC, represented by Bowman Consulting Group, Ltd., for approval of a zoning permit for the new construction and new use at 6501 Monona Drive, Lot 2, case number 2-006-2023. Are they on Zoom? Okay. I understand that you're here on Zoom to present this public hearing portion. Is that correct? If so, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Should be Kevin. Should be Kevin.
Kevin? Kevin? Kevin, we're here in the public hearing portion of your application, if you can hear us.
We can hear you.
Terrific. Hi, Kevin. This is Nancy Moore, the chair of the Plan Commission. If you could go ahead and present your proposal. We're at the public hearing portion of your application this evening.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kevin Hake-Monick. I am with Bowman Consulting, civil engineer, on the behalf of Allrig USA, my client here, developer. We're submitting this application for Lot 2 of the property located at 6501 Monona Drive in Monona. This subject property is approximately 1.02 acres. It's been subdivided into two parts. Lot 1 was about 0.6 acres, and Lot 2 has an area of about 0.41 acres. Lot 1 has already been permitted and constructed as a Chipotle restaurant with a pickup window. I believe construction of that portion has more or less finished. Lot 2 is going to be a proposed cell phone retail store and second retail tenant, following the overall plans that we provided the city last year or the year before. The proposed cell phone tenant has typical hours of operation of 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 12 to 6 p.m. on Sunday. Customer traffic and number of employees vary by market and time of year, but it is expected there will be no more than 3 to 4 employees and 5 to 7 customers in the store at any time. Proposed retail building closely follows the approved and construction permit drawings for the Chipotle building to the north. Revised civil sheets, including site plan, grading plan, utility plan, and erosion control plan, have been prepared for the construction of this southern building. No modifications to the drive aisles, the parking, the constructed stormwater facilities, utilities are anticipated. All the original submittal hardscape and utility will remain as is. No additional easements are anticipated to be required for anything. The building plans and elevations for the building, as well as the approved signage and striping and landscape plans, have also been included in this submittal for review. And again, these closely follow the original approved drawings for the overall development. Really no changes to note. There is also a monument sign for the cell phone user requested on the northeast corner of that second building in the green space. So that's my rundown. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else here on behalf of this particular application, or are you the primary presenter tonight before I close the public hearing?
We also have Vanessa from Allrig, who's also available to answer questions as needed.
Okay, Vanessa, we can certainly ask you questions later, but is there anything that you'd like to present during the public hearing portion?
No, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. That being the case, we'll close the public hearing section and move on to 7B, consideration of action on the request by Monona Retail Management LLC, represented by Bowman Consulting Group Ltd. for approval of a zoning permit for new construction and new use at 6501 Monona Drive, Lot 2, case number 2-006-2023. Doug?
Thank you. So this zoning permit request is to build a second commercial building on Lot 2 of 6501 Monona Drive, and also requesting the approval of a new tenant for one half of the space. The lot is just over 0.4 of an acre, with the first tenant of the two being an AT&T cell phone store. Lot 1 of the development was approved in November of 2021, with construction of a Chipotle restaurant approved, and many of the site improvements were included with the Lot 1 improvements. The parcel itself is zoned Community Design District, and the zoning permit is required for both the new use as well as new construction that is proposed. The property is located along Monona Drive, and any new development should be reviewed in conjunction with the Monona Drive Urban Design Guidelines. The Comprehensive plan lists this as commercial use in both the future land use map and the current, and the proposed use appears to align with that, complementing the adjacent retail and service tenants. The zoning permit itself for the AT&T use, the occupancy would be just over 1,000 square feet. The hours were already shared by the applicant, with typical retail hours not extending beyond 8 p.m. 3 to 4 employees expected, with no more than 5 to 7 customers in the store at any one time. The Commission may choose to discuss the use as previously approved and envisioned for this site. It was to be a medical clinic with sort of a low volume traffic. There was a lot of discussion about site circulation overall, and so certainly with this use, the proposed intensity, but also maybe some direction for the second tenant for this space as well may be helpful. As far as the architecture in the building, it's within both the urban design guidelines, but also the River Place development. And that was something that was considered extensively for the Chipotle use. The materials are high quality and do align with the Broadway corridor plan. Plans really have this as sort of a sister building to the main Chipotle, and a lot of the design elements have been replicated. There was some design feedback that was shared by staff, specifically at the southeast corner, as it related to sort of the transparency of the building and the visuals as you approach north on Monona Drive, and the applicant did make some revisions to that, really limiting kind of the back of the building effectively, and really making it a building with lots of transparency and appealing on multiple sides. In terms of the parking, the standards of those are outlined in attachment 2 of the zoning code. Typically for commercial, that would be 1 stall per 300 square feet. The approved plans for this have 15 stalls, 1-5, with one ADA accessible stall in front of the building. Bike parking was also included at the northeast corner of the Chipotle site that could certainly serve this as well. In terms of the standards, at just over 1,000 square feet, by code, this would just require 4 stalls, so it appears that the parking generally seems appropriate. Site circulation is not proposed to change, and this was approved administratively by staff in November of 2022. This is included in the packet just for reference as well, and it does include a striped crosswalk connecting lots 1 and 2, which will allow for pedestrian and bike traffic accessing certainly from the corner there of Monona Drive and West Broadway. Landscaping is still an open item. This was delegated to staff for the entire site. The latest landscaping plan has been included. I have been working with Commissioner Stein on that to give some feedback in terms of species and some elements there, and so that is something that could most likely still be included within the original Chipotle plans, but certainly any feedback the Commission may choose to give would be welcome. Green space for Lot 2 itself that is being considered this evening is just under 50%. The gooseneck lighting was proposed for both the Chipotle site as well as this, and light poles are already included. Please note that the gooseneck lighting is on special order, and so I've worked with the applicant that they've put temporary lighting in for now, with the understanding that this will be replaced as the lights come in as they're available. As mentioned, the monument sign has been discussed, which would be a new addition. Any signage would need to be considered by the Plan Commission, but maybe some feedback should be given or could be given at this meeting. Stormwater was not shared specifically with the consulting engineer because the whole site was reviewed as part of the Chipotle, and certainly there was some feedback here from Public Works staff as well about the erosion control and utilities, which is included as a suggested condition of approval. With that, staff recommendation is approval with the 5 conditions as listed in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. With that, I'm going to start down at this end. Chris?
Okay, the use is fine. I think it's not exactly what we anticipated. It'll be fine. I would just mention to the developer that you, as staff recommended, you are just going to want to watch your next tenant to make sure it doesn't overwhelm the parking. The architecture I love. It's beautiful, other than the south end needs another set of windows on the west elevation. When you come into Monona, you see the back of this building, and it looks like a back of a building with that blank brick wall. And I understand where you don't want windows in an area, but if that's the case, then use spandrel glass. You can have it in there, it'll look like a window, you just won't be able to see through it. But I think that'd really be important for the architecture. Landscape plan, I think, is a little bit deficient. I think we should work on that. And the one thing that I don't see we talked about on the Chipotle approval is that ash tree that's at the southwest corner of your site, it's a third dead. And we talked about replacing that. It's not going to make it clearly as emerald ash borer already, so it'd be that. And it seems when I look at the landscape plan that the plantings around the Chipotle are much better than they are around this, especially when you get to some foundation plantings or something. So I would again just recommend we leave it to staff and you can consult with Commissioner Stein. But they seem a little lacking on especially that south end. And we're very worried, not worried, we're very careful with that south elevation because that is really the first building you really see on the left coming into Monona. So as we mentioned when we first did this site, that's important. And then the last thing I would say is I think there should be some bike stalls right by this. I don't think kids are going to bike to Chipotle on the north end and then walk all the way down to get their phone at AT&T. So I think somewhere just a pad with a few stalls for bikes would be good. Other than that, I think I love the look of the building. I think they've done a great job matching up with everything else on the site, and anxious to see it go in. I think AT&T is a fine use.
Thank you. Susan?
All right, I have a lot of similar thoughts. I'm fine with the slight change in usage, assuming the size of the second place will somewhat limit the need for parking. I don't know what else you could, with another 1,000 square foot business is not going to demand a lot of parking, I don't think, so it should be okay. I had the exact same thought about the south part. I hadn't thought of what you could do there, but Chris's suggestion for the windows makes sense to me. It just does look really plain. And the landscaping along the drive looked okay to me in terms of the trees that are there, unless that includes that ash. Where's the ash? The ash is down there. Okay, down there, yeah. So that needs to be dealt with. But yeah, something a little more behind, maybe if it goes in behind the building itself, if you could do a little more, would be my only other thought. I thought otherwise it looks fine.
Okay. Chris Conrad.
This all looks good to me, and I agree with everything you guys have said before me. I am a little concerned about parking just because I've been in many AT&T stores and I've seen many more than 5 to 7 customers at any given time, but I guess one could argue the more stores that are built in Madison and the surrounding areas, the less crowded the other stores will become. If I had 4 to 7, 3 to 4 employees, 5 to 7 customers, it's 11. And you're building 15 spots, so I guess maybe that will be fine. We'll see. Just something to keep an eye on. I was just curious if there's any thought or plan to put in any conduit for electrical vehicle charging.
I believe we had. I'm not sure if we had some on the original plan. Vanessa, do you remember if that was included or not?
I unfortunately do not recall. That was prior to me joining Allrig, so I apologize.
I can step.
It's something where we could add a spot or two if we needed to. Certainly.
I can step in on this. That it was discussed as part of the Chipotle approvals, I believe, the northwest corner, away from the frontage. And I was verifying with the superintendent that was included. I don't yet have a plan showing its location, but I was reassured that it was put in before the parking lot was surfaced. So
Okay, that's great.
for the larger site, but not necessarily for this.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Brandon.
Actually, I want to just add to Chris's comment there about EV parking. If I was to think of like a use case that is perfect for EV parking, it's a cell phone store. I've never been able to get out of a cell phone store without being stuck there for a few hours. True.
Yes.
And that parking lot's pretty tucked away, so if there was an ideal location, and I know that that's also a thing that gets leased out, so I think it's a high value location for that prospective use. So I think that EV would go great at this location. The landscaping, as was already mentioned, there at the southeast corner and the glazing, I think both of those elements I couldn't agree more about. And that's why we, as a city, have put the monuments ourselves there that we have. So this is kind of the backdrop to those, so I would just put special emphasis on that southeast corner. Other than that, the intended use is fine. I have no other comments.
Great. Let me just say it on the EV front that what we're talking about first and foremost is roughing in for EV.
Yes.
Additional EV. We're not suggesting that immediately that you'd have to put in an EV station, but that this might be a good secondary location. Brian?
First question is roof pitch on the Chipotle. Do we recall what that is? I know in the design guides we're talking 912 to 1212. This is coming in at 712.
I believe they match.
Okay, as long as they match, I'm fine. I can't remember back to the Chipotle one, so as long as they're matching, I am just fine with that piece of it. The use seemed just fine. Agree with the other comments that the second tenant would be, the parking might be the issue, so to make sure that's brought up. Landscaping, as people indicated, the south side of this building is important for the visual as people enter the city. I think not only the glazing, but some foundational plants along the south side, pretty heavy. I mean, in effect, it's going to appear as the front of the building. So some good landscaping between the glazing on that south side as well as the east side of the building, I think would be important, not just the canopy trees over there on the east side, but some good foundational planting. Signage, no one touched it because it's not part of this proposal, but I will indicate that where I think the sign is being requested would be an off-site premise, so it would not be an approved location for the landscape ground sign. It looks like on one of the sheets, I just wanted to ensure that I'm not double guessing, the signage and striping plan, if it's not that one? Oh, all right. Good.
But
I'm wrong.
It may be close to an easement, but it is sort of the northeast corner of that vault.
Oh. It's just not on our plan, so I'll worry about it next time.
I didn't see it.
Other than that, I thought it looked great.
Thank you. I would just reiterate Brendan's comment that I've never been to a cell phone store where I've been I have been less than 2 hours, but I've never been there shorter than an hour. So it's and that may be the case that on the weekends when the rest of River Place is less in use, that it would become less of an issue, but certainly during the week it may be. So I would just caution you about about that second tenant. With that, do I have, yes, Chris?
I'd like to just pose a question to the commission first, and I'll make a motion, but it does front on 2 streets, and we want it to look like there's not a back, so I would suggest we would probably like to see AT&T with a sign on the front, but also the south elevation, which when people come into Monona, it'll look like the building's active. I would think the applicant would like that, but I would think the commission would also like this just to make sure it looks like, it's not the back of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a message for them on signage, and obviously I'm sure staff's talked to you, but we like individually lit letters, not. But whatever, if we have some nice tasteful signage on the front, I'd replicate it right on the other front.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. All right.
I would add nice, tasteful, warm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, move approval with conditions 1 and 2 as written by staff. Condition 3, that a window be added on the south elevation on the west side to match the other windows, maybe spandrel glass or can be regular glass. That's up to the applicant. That number 4, we have a revised landscape plan come back to staff for approval. And number 3, that we have a bike stall location and implementation come back to staff for approval.
There's 3 other recommendations on the next page.
Okay,
Just in terms of
I wrote it on the front, so it'll be 6, 7, and 8, sorry. And I had read all those, so.
Yeah.
But We'd strike 5 then. And could we just have the revised landscape plan coming back to staff? So it'd be 5, 6, 7.
Thank you.
So I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? I have a second. Brandon? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Could I, they don't need a lot of bike stalls there, and you can look at a location, but there should be a few bike stalls.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We look forward
Thank
to
you very
seeing
much.
progress,
Thanks.
Kevin.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move to number 7C, public hearing on the request by Joaquin Lopez, DBA Fratelli's Trattoria, for approval of a zoning permit for new use at 5801 Monona Drive, case number 2-007-2023. This is your time. It's your public hearing. So again, if you guys would like to come up and to chat at all, share anything you'd like to about your request.
Zoning first.
This is the zoning first. Welcome again. Thank you for your patience. So if you'd like to just share a little bit from your application, since the public doesn't necessarily read through all the documents that we read through, and this is recorded for public reasons, if you could just share just a small bit about what you want to do with the site.
Yeah, we are going to open an Italian restaurant
Mhm.
where Angelo's Pizzeria used to be.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to keep, like I said, an Italian restaurant serving pasta, seafood, fish, pizza, drinks.
He wants his mic up by his mouth, I bet.
Oh, new batteries. Hang on.
Oh, no.
Having a good day.
It's been one of
We
those
had
days.
Oreos, so it's a good day.
Hey, he always has to put it in front of my mouth, too. I never have it close enough.
So you want me to start all over again? Yeah, so we're taking over the Angelo's Pizzeria again and opening another Italian restaurant, serving pizza, pasta, seafood, fish, and steaks, long cocktails, wine, and it's a family-friendly restaurant where kids, adults, and seniors are welcome. So we hope for the
Keep going. We should be okay. You can keep going.
We got that.
You guys are.
It's not Jackson's day today. Yeah.
and so that's why we are applying today for that
Okay.
license.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to say anything during the public hearing portion?
No, there's not much to say. I'm Gary Fraboni. We own the property, and
Yeah.
we're happy to have someone come in again.
Uh-huh.
It's been a while since the restaurant's been open,
Uh-huh.
and that's it. I'm in full support for him.
Okay. Great. Well, we will, there's no one else, seeing no one else on Zoom, we will close the public hearing and go to item number D, consideration of action on the request by Joaquin Lopez, DBA Fratelli's Trattoria, for approval of a zoning permit for a new use at 5801 Monona Drive, case number 2-007-2023. Doug?
Thank you. The request here is a zoning permit request for a new Italian restaurant to occupy the former Angelo's space. The restaurant would be open 7 days a week with between 150 and 200 customers expected per day. The applicant successfully applied with both License Review Committee and City Council for a Class B liquor and fermented malt beverage license, and although a similar use, the space has been vacant for greater than 6 months, necessitating Plan Commission review. Public hearing notices were mailed out to everybody within 200 feet of the property. The property is zoned retail business, and the 2016 comp plan has the future land use map showing this as commercial. The proposed use aligns with the comprehensive plan and the historical use for the space. There are no major modifications planned for the existing space. Some floor plans were included from the License Review Committee packet, and this shows both levels at the restaurant, with a capacity of 68 in the main dining room, 28 at the bar, with another 98 in the lower level. And in conversation with the applicant, that was confirmed to be kind of a private room that would be used as needed rather than being open every day. That becomes important as it relates to the parking. No changes are proposed to the existing parking arrangement at the property. The current parking has 35 stalls with 2 ADA accessible stalls. The zoning code requires 1 stall per 3 seats for restaurants when there is a seating layout that's provided. Based on the materials, the 194 total seats at full capacity across both levels would require 65 stalls. When accounting for only the main level with both the bar and the dining room, the seating reduces to 96 with 32 stalls required. The property of the owner of this property also owns the adjacent space at 108 Owen Road with the adjoining parking. Given the hours of operation, there's a possibility there could be some sort of shared parking for the private room when that is in use. Commission may choose to discuss that, possibly add a finding of fact if that is desired. No changes are proposed to the landscaping for the site. During a recent visit, the landscaping was in decent condition despite the vacancy and the time of year. There are parking stalls along Monona Drive that do not have landscape screening for headlights, and that may be something to discuss. The hours of operation, Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., with Friday and Saturday hours, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Signage is to be considered as the next agenda item, and there were no comments from staff when they reviewed it. Staff recommends approval with the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We're going to start at this end. Chris?
Okay. Well, first, for those of you that aren't aware, Angelo was a longtime Plan Commission member in Monona and served here for quite a while. Was always worried about doing things right. And I remember talking to him, Gary, when you guys built the commissary. At least that's what you called it back then. Mm-hmm. And he told me at least one reason he put the parking lot in so big is so that there would be overflow parking for the restaurant.
Right, yeah.
And I believe that's still the case, is it not?
There's a lot of overflow parking in there right now from our other neighbors. So we're pretty flexible that way. You know, as long as we're closed, the
Right.
lot's there to use.
Right. And as a frequent customer of Angelo's, once the commissary was built, I never really saw a lot of issues with the parking. So I'm comfortable with the parking and the arrangement they have, and as busy as you are, there seems to always be some extra stalls there. I just don't see it being an issue at lunch when you're the busiest.
Yep.
And so I think the parking's fine there. I looked at your hours of operation. You're open till 7, right? So there's a little bit of an overlap for dinner, but again, I've been there a lot, and it's rarely full. So I think the parking's fine. I think the use is fine. I think it could use just a little touch-up on the landscaping. And I know you've mentioned you want to do that once you're open, so I hopefully be open to just some landscape improvements by the middle of the summer or something when you have time to do it, but just a few things to freshen it up because it's a lot of asphalt up there. It would help the looks to have just a little something in there. I know there used to be some pots there and some landscaping in those and different things a long time ago.
Yeah, well, the front of the building has a lot of flower pots.
Good.
We had it full of flowers
Yep,
last year.
yep, it was.
It hasn't been empty since
Yeah, okay.
closed.
So I think,
The Monona Drive part is a little iffy.
well, I don't know that you have the room right on Monona Drive.
Yeah, the plants that are there were put in by the city, and
Yeah, but
they're just not very
those
good.
should be put back, but again, staff and Rob would have some probably good suggestions for just some grasses or a few things, just
Yeah.
to separate the blacktop from the sidewalk.
Mhm.
And that was the
Yeah.
intent of all the Monona Drive rebuild, was to try to do something without putting businesses out. So it was a really fine line. You know, we had to try to keep all the parking we could, but still have something just to break it up. And it looks pretty good, I think, in most areas where it's broken up with some landscaping. So I think this will be something, when you have a tenant again watching it, and, I mean, it's curb appeal too. You want it to look nice. When it looks good, people want to come there.
We'll make sure it's really.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. I think it's a great use.
Susan?
All right. I agree with those comments. I'm happy to see you're going in there. It's nice to have another Italian restaurant there again. We've missed it.
Thank you.
And, you know, and I've been to events there in that lower level also, and even though the parking becomes more crowded, it's always been adequate. It's always worked. So I would share that lack of concern about parking. I think it's fine. And again, even the overlap with dinner, so. Yeah, nothing to add to what you've already heard. I think it's great. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Chris?
I have nothing to add other than to say I'm really excited that you're coming. I only went to Angela's a couple times before they closed, and I was sorry they did, and I like Italian food, so this is a welcome addition. I'm just curious if, assuming all this works out for you, when are you hoping to open your doors?
Well, after we finish and have all the license, we have a few things to hang out and some equipment that we purchased that has to arrive, and we were thinking probably early April or middle April, something like that.
That sounds great.
And I hope you will enjoy our Italian food. Our chef is with us too, Sergio Lopez, and we're gonna work hard to make you guys happy.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would agree with all the comments that have been made, and just add Chris's comments about the landscaping. You know, we talk a lot about the important corners in our community, especially for visitors coming to our town, but that intersection at Owen and Monona Drive, I think, is an especially important intersection for those of us who live in town, because in a lot of cases it's the first time that I feel like I'm pulling into like my home, you know, because when I come up Monona Drive, and because Owen is one of the few roads that's a through road. The other one is, if I'm coming from the north, it might be Flong or Winnequa, but it's an important intersection. So I would, as a resident, I would highly value the landscaping right at that corner. So Ken's being right there, and the Italian restaurants, and then the post office being right there. It's a really, anyway, it's an important important intersection for me as a resident. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I would add, because you've got the Heritage right there and other multifamily, the density there is obviously probably makes it extremely attractive as a restaurant and as an Italian restaurant, because you have that density right there. But again, because it's because of the post office and others, it gets quite a bit of use. As other people say. Yeah. Brian.
Nothing additional. Welcome.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Sure. Move approval of the three conditions as recommended by staff, and number 4, that we restore the landscaping along Monona Drive by July 1st, 2023. Would that be enough time?
That would be enough. Yes, sir.
That gives you the whole spring and everything to take a look at what you want to do.
Yeah, we will start as soon as the bad weather goes away.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome. We look forward to having you here.
I miss you.
Yeah. We're going to move to item number E. Public hearing on the request by Fratelli's Trattoria for approval of a new signage at 5801 Monona Drive, case number S-002-2023. Go ahead and share what you're doing here with the signage, if you would.
Hi, I'm Chuck Zimmerman. I'm from Capital City Signs, and we're the ones that have given Joaquin the proposal for the new signs for the restaurant.
Right.
We took a look at the existing Angelo signs. We felt that the existing lower signs, I don't know if you've got a picture of what's there. There were two 6 foot by 6 foot signs on either side of the entrance. We felt that those, they've outlasted their usefulness. So we decided to scrap the whole signs. Instead of just going with the simple reface of the existing, we went with a new sign to incorporate some of the logo ideas from the Fratellis image plan, and we just came up with a cloud type sign, wall-mounted cloud type sign at eye level on either side of the entrance. And then further, we decided to reuse the existing roof-mounted sign. I don't believe roof-mounted signs are allowed anymore, but this is an existing sign. We're going to reuse the face, simply remove the decals that said Angelo's and put on the Fratellis. And then I've sent updated artwork. I don't know if the updated artwork made it to the packet, but it's for the overall package.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing nobody on again on Zoom, I assume we're going to close the public hearing and go to consideration of action. F, consideration of action on the request by Fratelli's Trattoria for approval of a new signage at 5801 Monona Drive, case number S-002-2023.
Thank you. The signage request here is for a total of 3 signs with 2 wall signs, one facing north, one facing south, as well as the reface of the roof sign. Each of these is approximately around 21 square feet and facing north and south. They would all be LED illuminated, and in terms of the standards, this is in the retail business zoning district as well as along the Monona Drive corridor, so subject to those guidelines. And in regards to that, it does state, the guidelines do state that commercial signage should reflect a balance between allowing adequate signage for business identification, legibility and visibility, and protecting the aesthetic of the overall streetscape. In terms of the frontage of the building does face both Monona Drive and Owen Road, and it has approximately 67 and 37 feet, respectively, of frontage. Both signs are both of the wall-mounted signs are replacing existing 36 square foot 6x6 signs, so there will be a reduction of about 15 square feet for each of those. And then the combined sign is the total of the wall signs is also beneath the maximum permitted for the facade length facing Monona Drive as well. In terms of the roof sign, as mentioned, that is an existing non-conforming. The city staff did go through some of the files and look at previous approvals, and this was approved back in both November 1987 as well as June 1990. The sign would be approximately 21 square feet and would be a reface of a portion of it, with the left portion with the logo to remain as is. The Commission may choose to discuss the need for additional identification and the existing nature of this. Also, the fact that the signage total at just under 64 square feet is still well within the allowable and beneath the existing conditions as well. So those items are for discussion. If the Commission chooses to approve, 2 findings of facts and 2 conditions of approval are listed in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I verify that only the 2 new signs will be LED illuminated? The existing rooftop sign will remain being fluorescent lit.
Thank you.
Brian, would you like to start on this?
Yeah, the 2 main signs, no problem. They look great. It's a reduction in size. The concern, what I was looking up, is the roof sign issue. I'd like to hear some other people's opinions on, I'm trying to look up what our definition of a marquee sign is. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is we have an entryway here which is not the main roof of the structure, it's an entryway. And that sign that's mounted on top of that is not exceeding the midpoint of the roof of the main building. So I'm not sure where it falls in the category of roof sign versus some other category of a sign. Not easy to look on my phone, so I'm glad Doug has his computer. And I bring that up, and I was trying to think of some other recent signs that we've done where there's a similar roof line that is not the main structure of the building roof line, and where signs have been located. There's not anything that I can think of that is super similar, but I think there is some precedent of some signage that is above that roof line of an entryway, but not above the midpoint of the main roof line, if that makes any sense. So, pending some further information and hearing what others have to say, I'm still a little torn yet.
Thank you.
I'm also torn about the roof sign. Like, it's a really charming and endearing thing. You know, like, it's imprinted on my mind here as a resident. I like it as part of the building. But if I was thinking about things moving forward, if I was thinking about like the design language for signage on an Italian restaurant, like the awning that's in front of the building, the two new signs that are being talked about, those are very appealing. If I didn't already know, you know, it's similar to like when we had the city sign over in front of the bank. Like, it's sort of a very charming, quaint element that matters to me as a resident. But if I was not a resident thinking about it, and I was thinking about, you know, like the future evolution of it, I probably wouldn't put it there. So I'm also kind of, I'm split about the sign on the roof.
Chris Conrad.
I like the new sign. There is a lot of white in it, and so I'm curious if you can tell me the color temperature of the illumination behind it.
The temperature is 6,500 white. Is the temperature of the LEDs. So
is there any way you can divide that by 2, like closer to 3,000?
3,000. What happens then is you get yellow. The lower the number goes, it changes the light.
Yeah, 6,500 super white, and it's a white sign. So I'm concerned it's going to be borderline, you know, blinding or distracting.
Right.
You know, if you could lower it to something closer to 4,000 degrees or lower, I don't think it would be yellow.
Well, 65 is the industry standard for sign illumination. When you get into below 4,500, then you're getting into special order material, and just the available product is just not there in LED illumination. If we wanted to go with neon illumination, I mean, we're going back 20 years then, as far as, you know, energy efficiency. We can do 4,500 white in neon. We can do 4,500 white in fluorescence. And if the wave of the future is moving to more energy efficient LED, if you're going to make a requirement for LED color temperature, you need to have the product to back it up first.
I see a lot of LED lights that are adjustable all over the place for different color temperatures.
Not for an outdoor application.
I have seen outdoor LED lights that are adjustable.
I am in the industry. I've been in the industry for 20 plus years, and I can tell you that the outdoor rated UL listed LEDs that are adjustable are not UL.
Can you tell me the name of the manufacturer of this LED light?
Of this LED light, it would be would be Hanson LED.
And so Hanson's LED light is not adjustable.
Or JLE LED or Sloan LED. I mean, these are the main manufacturers for the sign lighting LED product. And they don't have
apples and oranges,
adjustable.
where I know they're adjustable on parking lot lights and stuff, but this is a little different type of lighting than the parking lot lights or bollards that we typically look at. So we could be talking, we could both.
Yeah,
be
maybe
right.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
We're comparing apples and oranges here, so yeah.
I think when you're talking about outdoor lighting, you're talking about parking lot lighting and bollards and accent lighting.
Street lights, yes, they've
Because
got
those
some.
are all adjustable.
Right. You have 3 settings. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So these guys don't make lights that have 3 settings that are adjustable.
Correct.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'm just concerned it's a lot of white. So then you couple that with a super bright white
Now, by
LED.
comparison, Verizon at the corner of, you know where Verizon is, they also are 6500 white. Now, would you argue that that's too bright? This is under 20 square feet, and that's, I would say, twice that.
Is the
Yeah.
brightness adjustable, or is that also fixed?
It's fixed, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could put more LEDs, I can put less LEDs in it.
You think there's a slight difference with the Verizon sign from a setback relative to like the approach of the individual, like to that sign, and then the ambient light level, like in the adjacency of the Verizon. I'm not trying to get in the middle of what you guys are talking about, but just
I hear
You took me out of the middle. I appreciate that.
yeah. Hey, did you guys look at anything other than a cabinet style light? Like something to where, maybe it's if you had like aluminum behind and the light was. Chris was bringing up earlier about individually lit letters. I know that's probably a different price point for signage, but to where it's indirect light, instead of a direct light that's passing through a media.
I feel that this sign is more appropriate for the wall that is being put on. I mean, we're limited to space. I mean,
Yeah.
you start to spell out the word Fratelli's in a 6 foot wide wall. All of a sudden, your letters are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You got a number of factors going into the cost per letter.
Yeah.
We'll get into dollars here. Where the sign I'm proposing is X amount of dollars. We do the individual letters. I would say it's probably going to increase the cost of the sign by four times the cost of the sign. Individual letters, they are beautiful. They're just not always appropriate.
Okay, well, we can move on. I see condition of approval number 2 is if the glare of the lighting is deemed to be excessive by the Plan Commission, then the Plan Commission may require adjustments to the lighting. So
At that point, sure.
we shall see.
Another thing I can do is I can use industry standard is an 1/8 inch thick white acrylic. I can do a 3/16 thick white acrylic. It's just a thicker acrylic, and it takes more light to come through. So it actually melts. So it's a little bit like in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
That's an option.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Susan?
I like the sign. I agree with you that channel letters would not be appropriate in that location. It's not big enough. And I think where that sign is also, it's distance from the, I just don't have the concern about the light. And I also was going to point out that condition. That's a standard condition they always use. About if the glare becomes excessive, you'll have to deal with it. I just don't think it'll be a problem. So I'm fine with it. I think it's nice looking. And I also, given that we'd be making an exception due to a pre-existing sign, I don't really have a problem with the rooftop sign either. My only concern was really whether your lettering would show up well enough. I just think, once you know where it is, you can find it, but you do need some identification as you're coming up the drive, and I think that sign shows up better than putting it on an awning or something like that would. You don't have room for a landscape sign, so to me, it's appropriate to make use of the existing sign the way you propose to do. So I don't have a problem with it. And I like the lettering style, but that was my only concern is, will it be legible given the size? And that's up to you to decide. If you feel it is, that's fine. To me, it's not kind of put our purview. So I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Can I ask first, we have new artwork that we haven't seen?
Oh, I was going to ask that.
I mean, should we see what we're approving?
I was thinking.
It was for the Pepsi portion.
That would be good.
I will.
You can put it up.
I'll pull it up.
We can see it on the screen, and everybody can see it, but it'd be appropriate to see what we're approving.
I thought of that was actually one of the
And I apologize for that. That came in last week when I was out.
Ms. Conrad, while we're waiting, did you have an opinion? I couldn't remember what you said, if you had an opinion on the rooftop sign. Feedback on the rooftop sign.
Oh, much better. It's true, I didn't voice my opinion. I guess by virtue of the fact that it was already there, I'm okay with it remaining. I can't say I'm a big fan of seeing a big Pepsi sign anywhere, but, I also agree with Susan that I like the font, the kind of cursive Fratelli's font, and then the printing Trattoria Italiana.
That's what we're changing it to.
Okay. That's better.
It's a little bolder, so
It is bolder, yeah.
if you stand back and look at the one that was originally submitted, it's hard to read at a distance. This one you can read.
I'm good.
Much better.
It's much better.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So as far as your signs on the side, you keep hearing the concern, and when we've been burned a lot of times with white backgrounds that are too bright and they're distracting. So people are trying to caution you, and we have had other sign manufacturers say they can actually turn down the intensity, not the color, but the intensity of the LEDs. I don't know if you can or can't. Another thing we ask them to do then is add some more opacity to the sign, which is what you were talking about,
Right.
to make sure it isn't. Just so you know, because if you build this thing and we get a lot of complaints, we're going to come back and say, hey, we told you it couldn't be that bright, because we can't see it right now. Right? So
Right.
just, I would ask you to take that into account, because I agree with Susan. I think it's a good-looking sign the way you did it. I don't think you can get that feel, that Italian feel, and the look and the colors with individually channeled letters. It's done well. But we're all concerned about how bright the glare. So I hope you've received that message enough times and loud enough that, 3/16, if that does it, great. We don't want your sign to not be readable. We don't want it to be like headlights
Blinding.
in your face.
Blinding.
That's right. So that's what we're asking for. I like the signs on the side. We would never approve that light on top of the roof like that. There's no way we could go through all our code. There's nothing there that would approve that. But I believe we have to treat it like we do, for example, Eastside Businessman's pylon sign. As long as there's not a major structural modification, it's grandfathered and they can keep it. In this case, there's no major modification other than the signage on it. So I think it would be hard-pressed to take a sign that's grandfathered, and all they're doing is changing the face of it and the type. That's not a, we always talk about how much money you're spending on it. Are you rebuilding this thing? Because if you're rebuilding it, then it's no longer going to be grandfathered. But at this point, I would recommend we just put that in our finding of fact that this is a grandfathered sign that's simply being refaced, because we don't want to say you need more advertising, because everybody's going to want more advertising, so we don't want that as a finding of fact. So that would be my recommendation if the commission agrees with that.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah, I'm thinking, when you brought that up, now I can remember two other scenarios that I think fit what you're saying. One was the McDonald's on Manila Drive, which there was not only a signage redone, but there was also some other structural pieces, major landscaping, like an overhaul.
Right, when they wanted to rebuild their site, then there was enough being done. We said the pylon sign's no longer grandfathered, because you're doing enough. But here, just changing the face on the sign and just changing signs, there's just not enough to make the applicant, I think, lose that. To be fair, it's not enough to make them lose that grandfathered status. And Angela was smart getting that approved back when you did.
And then I think the other one that I think goes to that same point was when Ken's came forward. There was minor revisions, and the The sign that's on the north side of that roof structure stayed, and I think it was a similar finding of
Exactly.
fact of, like, it was just a minor
Exactly.
adjustments, because I think it was actually just to maybe the soffit panels or
Yeah, he
fascia
did a
panels.
little refacing of the building, but he did no major remodel or change like McDonald's had.
Yep. All right. I'm good with that.
We're comfortable?
And for the record, marquee signs, it could fall in that category, but that's only allowed in CDD.
Correct. I just wanted to provide one clarification about the idea that I was suggesting. I'm not saying you have to do this with the sign, but just so that there's clarity around what the nature of the suggestion was. Is if you, the sign itself, so you've got the circular part, you have a rectangular part on the signs. That if the rectangular part was used to, like shine light back onto the circular part. So there wasn't any direct light coming onto the circular part, but the rectangular part was actually used as a lighting box that was then pushing light back onto the circular part. So the circular part itself wasn't back illuminated, but it had, it was just reflecting, was more the nature of the idea. Not saying you have to do that, I just was more providing clarification to what the nature of the idea was. Yeah.
Well, it is all on one plane.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, one solid flat piece of plastic. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move approval of finding of fact number 1 is written by staff. Finding of fact number 2, that the roof sign is an existing grandfathered sign and is only being refaced with no other changes to the sign, so is allowed to remain. And then the 2 conditions of approval as written by staff.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 We've been clear on the message with the white.
What's that?
Thank
We've
you.
been clear on our message with the white.
All right. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Look forward to it.
Moving on to number 8, reports of staff and commission members. Staff report.
Thank you. Economic development update, the CDA meeting, which will be on March 28th, just after our next Plan Commission meeting. The CDA will be considering a couple items, both for the White Horse project, so that would be both the private drive as well as the North Point project, both of which were reviewed at the last Plan Commission meeting, as well as continued discussion with the 5105 Monona Drive project, the multifamily Walter Wayne on the vacant site as well. As way of Plan Commission updates or upcoming items, that item is sort of awaiting to see the Monona Drive project is awaiting to see CDA feedback, but would be looking to come back for the formal submittal with engineering review and all those items as well. Very few changes from the last time that has come through. And I'm also expecting 1 or 2 more zoning permit requests for new businesses, some changes in use and things like that. So looking at those coming through as well.
Walter Wayne would be in April then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any updates, discussion on DEI?
Nothing from staff.
Okay, nor do I have anything. Do we have any updates or discussion on sustainability?
Just that I know staff are working on the e-cycle event, which I think is aligned with Earth Day around that time of year. So expect more updates on that. I'll get some more information, date, time, and location of that as well to share with you.
Thank you. Any Plan Commission requests for information from city staff? Chris?
Well, I would like to make a request that we ask Public Works to review that ordinance because it's clearly wrong. And as our dear friend Kathy Thomas would remind us, years ago we brought that ordinance out of the trunk of a guy's car that he had a model for small lake communities, and we've made a lot of updates. Clearly for Public Works, we never ever intended, it's either a typo when we did it or it was something wrong with what we bought from his ordinance book. But we never intended for any of the roads to be 60 feet that these front on. We always intended to be a public road on a right-of-way of at least 60 feet. That's the clear intent, because the whole point of that was to make sure we had enough right-of-way for the public road. And a lot of times doesn't even pertain that much now. It's like if there's a new plat, we want a 60-foot right-of-way, and every lot has to be on a public road with at least a 60-foot right-of-way. And that was always the intent of that ordinance. I don't know if we have any roads that are 60 foot wide. It'd be silly to require that. So if that's what the ordinance says, we should just get it cleaned up. And I keep looking at you, Brad, you chair Public Works still, right? Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'd like the request from Plan Commission to go to Public Works to see if they just look at that and clean it up. I'm sorry.
No, send it, we'll have it on the next agenda.
Yeah, that'd be great, because it's just, to come here and say, well, we have to make an exception because you're supposed to be on a 60-foot road that's silliness. If I was an applicant, I'd say, ooh.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, I would just say to this group that I thank you very much for coming this evening. I know that we're all a bit heavy at heart. And with Alder Thomas passing this weekend, and for those of you that are new to Monona, as I said in my email today, she was the champion of champions, our champion. And she chaired this Plan Commission in 50 years, probably a dozen times, half a dozen times. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah, multiple times. And so I just want to appreciate everybody. She would be the first to say the show must go on, so I appreciate everybody enabling that tonight. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Susan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Right. Yeah.
And I thought that when I read your thing, I said, Kathy would absolutely be here.
Yeah. Yeah.